Okay. Just getting this set up. So, okay, I think we're good. Hi, everyone. Hiya. Hello. Hi. Okay. Yeah, so well, what's this about then? What are these meetings about, so to speak? Um, well, of course, nothing. So, the suggestion one could say is that all there is what appears to be happening. So there just seems to be a body, an apparent body, that just seems to be sitting on Zoom, breathing, listening, thinking, just apparent functioning. Just is what seems to be happening, what seems to be going on, one could say. And what appears to be happening is boundless energy, one could say. So all there is boundless energy. And so there's nothing mystical or magical or anything deeper or behind, underneath, after, or whatever. They're just quite simply is what appears to be happening. And it's naturally perfect, one could say. So what seems to be happening, an apparent body sitting on Zoom, is just naturally whole and complete. So it can't become more whole and complete. It can't be less whole and complete. It's just already naturally perfect. And so, yeah, like I say, what's being suggested and what appears to be happening is totally energetic. So there just seems to be speaking or whatever. But of course, there is no message, so to speak. There is nothing deeper in any words, or any meaning in anything or whatever. So, yeah, this natural perfection, one could say, of course, is already the case. But of course, this is a blind perfection. So there is no one, well, there is no one, but there is no one, of course, to whom this perfection presents, or to whom this perfection is experienced by, or that someone is aware of such perfection, or whatever. No, there just is no one. So, of course, this would be the hope of the apparent person. There seems to be this so-called experience where there seems to be a claim of I am, that this is me and this is my life. And so, of course, there can be a sense, one could say, of what is being suggested. But of course, the individual, the so-called individual, will always want to be in this. So the individual will always be looking for this perfection, so to speak. And one could just say that this seems to be the individual's life, searching for wholeness, searching for perfection, the individual's apparent life. And of course, that this so-called perfection will never be found. Never. It's impossible. Quite simply because it's never been lost. And there is no one who could find it or lose it, because there is no one. And there just always has been, so to speak, just what appears to be happening. This naturally blind perfection already, which is nothing else than just this, what appears to be happening. A body listening to Izzy, or whatever. So yeah, that feels like enough for now. But yeah, I mean, of course, anything is welcome. So questions, comments, just to catch up, say hello. Yeah, there's of course no right or wrong. There's no direction. There's nothing to get, and no one who could get this or whatever, even if there was. So yeah, let's see what happens.
All right, my love. Hello. Such a lovely energy. Boom! Just this.
Oh.
All right.
Lovely
Just
to see you.
enjoying the show, and I just love your curly hair.
Oh.
Okay, so just one, it's mine already.
Oh.
Okay, bye-bye. Mwah.
Thanks, Rosa. Take care.
Hi, Izzy.
Hiya.
This is Jason. Um, hey, in one of your recent videos, you were saying something like in your story, in the story of Izzy, that there was an initial kind of excitement about the whole non-duality message, and then at some point you realized you were going to die, and then it was like, ah, I feel like that's where I'm at right now. It's like, oh no, it's like what did I start here? Like, oh shit, what's going to happen? It's so funny though, because it's like the glimpses are so, whatever they are. Usually it's good, it's positive. Like whatever's happening seems really positive, but still it's like this me part of me doesn't want to end. And I guess that's just part of the me structure or something, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, exactly. It just seems to be how that apparent loop works, so to speak. So, yeah, exactly. I mean, with these so-called glimpses or whatever, well, of course, there are no glimpses really, but of course, the so-called person seems to survive that and then come back and project a lot of things onto it, one could say. So it may be, yeah, a lot of excitement and, oh, that was great, need to have that again. But But really, yeah, one could say, yeah, well, of course, what's being suggested is death. So yeah, like you say, when this is energetically, this, for me at least, when this was really heard and energetically, it was confronting, one could say, then yeah, this wasn't so fun anymore. And I mean, all these glimpses and the very romantic stories that seem to come out of them just sort of, I mean, weren't interesting, because yeah, this was about me dying.
Exactly. Thank you.
Thanks, Jason. Okay, how did the seeking start for you in the chat? Well, I mean, of course, the seeking, or the so-called seeking, never, I mean, when there seems to be the sense of me, so to speak, is the seeking. The sense of the person is this sense to be seeking. So there's nothing special about my seeking or whatever. Or, oh, well, I remember the seeking starting when I da da da. No, I mean, when there seems to be this sense to be me, then this is the seeking, so to speak, the apparent seeking. So I mean, of course, yeah. So there is no answer to this question, because seeking actually doesn't even start or stop. There is no seeking in terms of this separate seeking entity. And yeah, with this so-called death, this energy of all the seeking just seems to just the body just seems to relax or collapse or whatever. Sorry, the seeking energy just seems to collapse or relax, as the body just seems to just cleanse itself or whatever. So yeah, I mean, of course, there were lots of different things I seemed to seek, and the person seems to seek in many different things, and then will of course come to this sort of message, so to speak, come to this message with the same attitude, of course, seeking something in what appears to be happening. But yeah, of course, they'll never find anything, because there's nothing to find. And there's not even anyone looking, so it's impossible. Just an apparent body that seems to say it's seeking something, or claim a feeling as if there's something to be sought, whatever. Hi, Andrew.
Hi Izzy, how are you?
Hi, yeah, I'm very well, thank you.
I'm really not got a question this minute because I've just got up. It's 5:15 here in the morning, Izzy, so I'm
Oh, wow.
a bit brain dead. But I just wanted to say thank you for doing it. Great to see you, and I'll join in if I think of anything to say, but I'm half asleep. So thanks for
Oh,
doing it. And
oh, nice to have you here.
it's lovely to be here, Izzy, and speak soon, perhaps.
Yeah. Oh,
Okay,
thanks, Andrew.
I'll melt into the background. Thank you.
Hi.
Hello.
This is a short question. So there isn't even an idea of how simple or ordinary this is, or how dead this is. Like Julie said, simple and obvious. Obvious, yeah.
Oh,
But
well,
there isn't.
I don't tend to say obvious, because in this sense, obvious, for me, obvious almost implies that there is something that is obvious, that is being overlooked. Which of course there isn't. There is nothing being overlooked, so to speak, or that is not being seen. There's just already no one looking. So yeah, anyway, yeah.
Yeah. So even listening to yourself or anybody, I cannot. I can't even say that this is. I cannot come to like a conclusion of seeing that this is ordinary or very, very, very normal.
Well, yeah, I mean, of course, yeah, exactly. There is no conclusion. So
Yeah.
that this, I mean, what appears to be happening is just what appears to be happening, and it's just naturally whole and complete, and there's no conclusion in that. So there's no beginning and there's no ending. It's just timelessly itself, so to speak, perfectly itself. So I mean, really, what one could say is the person is this sense of always looking for the conclusion, always looking for it to be wrapped up. Okay, right.
Yeah.
That will be done now, done with that, and then what next, or whatever. But really, one could say it's looking for this final conclusion in death, of course, which is what's being suggested. But of course, which is this already. So to the person, this death or this final conclusion or destination is always something in the future, so to speak. So yeah, I mean, what appears to be happening, one could just say, well, it's just totally normal, in this sense that it's just what appears to be happening, it's just what's going on. So compared to sort of, well, for me anyway, there was a lot of expectation, one could say, perhaps from this sort of spiritual background, or seeking in these sorts of things, you know, with sort of lights and deities and awareness experiences or whatever. And yeah, of course, all this just goes totally down the drain. So in that, I mean, there's just what appears to be happening, two so-called bodies having a chat on Zoom. So one could just call that this total ordinariness, this just total unknowable aliveness.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see the hopelessness of this to be something. And you just mentioned the word expectation.
Yeah.
But it seems to be some kind of maybe a expectation left that keeps me alive or something. Yeah.
Well, I mean, me, the so-called me, is the expectation. So there's
Yeah.
I mean, of course, there's no me that has expectation, because there is no one. So this sense to be me is this sense of expectation, this sense of something constantly being round the next corner. And so, yeah, one could just call this ordinariness or whatever. But of course, I mean, like you said at the start, there is no one. Well, there is
You
no
can
one.
have
But
that.
there is
Yeah.
this is not some conclusion that is then arrived at. So there's no one who experiences anything, of course. There just is no experience, whether that's ordinary or not ordinary or whatever. There's just no experience of anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to see you. Okay. In the chat. Do you still attend the non-duality meetings from time to time? No. In short answer, no. I mean, I saw Andreas when he was in Brighton, but But yeah, no, of course not. This whole sort of, there's just no interest, of course. I mean, yeah, no. Perhaps to see a friend or whatever, but in terms of what me would be doing to this sense to get something out of it, no, of course not. It doesn't seem to happen at all. There seems to be more Netflix than non-duality.
So, Izzy, my conclusion,
Hi, Baron.
when you don't see us again, that is also a good sign.
Well, maybe not a good sign for you, but yeah.
Okay, just joking.
Oh. Yeah, in the chat, not even watching YouTube. No, not non-duality, no, no. I mean, no, it's totally collapsed. Not even YouTube. Not even podcasts, so I don't even know if there are any. No, I think I used to be a silent stalker as well of many of the websites, just seeing if anything was updated or whatever. Oh, whatever, yeah, just totally obsessed with it. And then not, so yeah, but no. Congratulations then. Oh, thank you. Graduated from non-duality. Hi, Ben.
Hello, Isabel.
Hi.
Izzy's cool, but Isabel's much prettier.
Aw. My parents will be pleased with that.
Yeah. So I liked your other background better. Is this going to be the new normal?
Who knows? Who knows? Yeah, I know. Haven't got my plant with me, I'm afraid.
Yeah. Yeah, we got to get you some plants in there.
Yeah, I
Something.
think so.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've had a rough weekend. I've been attending non-duality meetings, Zooms, and watching YouTubes for the past couple of years. And it's almost like the terminology, the phrasing becomes another form of conditioning.
Oh yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know, after many years of spiritual seeking, this is kind of a lot of the stuff has fallen away. This has kind of replaced it with the terminology. There's no one, everything's whole and complete.
Yeah.
Nothing's happening. I mean, so when times are difficult, it seems the phrasing comes into my head automatically as applied non-duality to try to help me feel better
Oh
about
yeah.
whatever's happening.
Yeah.
And it's just a constant thing, and there's no way out of that, right? There's nothing to be done.
Well, I mean, yeah, there's no way out of anything, of course. So yeah, I mean, yeah, of course, this happened to me too. I mean, this sort of conditioning, and yeah, would then be used to reassure me. It's okay, there's no one. So if something bad happened or there was stress or whatever, then it's okay, this isn't happening to anyone.
Right.
But really, this is just, yeah, like you say, just another attempt, really, one could say, of escape, ironically. I mean, the person would repeat to itself, it's okay, there is no escape. But really, this is trying to, well, do something or whatever, just to sort of, I mean, these so-called feelings are, of course, already 100% intensity. And so no one survives that, of course, already. But yeah, one could just say the person would just turn this into another method, like you say, applying it to so-called me and my problems or whatever. And there's just nothing wrong with this. There's already no one doing this. So it's just more conditioning or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I love the message. You know, I love specifically your presentation. You know, your delivery, and it just hits so deep. You know, and clear and authentic for me. And you know, I don't see myself stopping. You know, attending meetings, but at the same time, sometimes it's just like, you know, you ask yourself, is this just another form of conditioning that's going to lead nowhere? And of course, that's
Well,
true. It's not going to lead anywhere, right?
yeah, well, of course.
It's not supposed to lead anywhere. But it's the mind, you know, the mind is constantly trying to grasp, understand the concepts, and I know it can't be done, but yet it won't stop trying to do that. And then I'm just like, you know, there goes the mind running off, and it's doing its thing, its default thing, what it does, and it just seems endless, you know. Sometimes it's just too much.
Oh yeah, I mean this became this sort of this neuroses around, or
Yeah.
this whatever you want to call it, this trying to
Mhm.
work it out around this so-called message. Yeah, this became unbearable for me. I couldn't listen anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, for a decent period of time, probably like 6 months or so, I just couldn't listen. It was too triggering. It would just trigger
Mm.
all of that. I mean, there was then trying to work other things out or whatever, but it was just so intense, this trying to work it out. It was unbearable. So I just
Yeah,
couldn't.
this past weekend I had a moment where I wished I never heard of non-duality or anything to do with it. Literally,
Oh
I
yeah.
felt like, oh my God, it's too much. I don't want, I want to stop. I don't want to hear it anymore. But
Yeah.
yet, look, here I am today. Here I am
Yeah,
today,
yeah.
back. It's
Exactly.
crazy.
And this is the funny thing, so to speak, is there seems to just be this this so-called loop of this kind of absolute hate and avoidance and rejection, but also this deep longing and attraction towards this message simultaneously.
Yes,
Um,
yes, that's
so,
it.
I mean, one could kind of say with sort of glimpses or whatever, or when there can be a sense of energetically of what is being suggested, then it's sort of the beginning of the end in that sense. I mean, there's just no looking back, one could say. So then there can seem to just be this sort of tussle, because on the one hand there's a deep attraction, like I say, but on the other hand it's, well, yeah, just seems to be this whole just conflict.
Hmm. So I know I'm not going insane yet. Okay. I mean, I appreciate your reassurance that you went through a similar experience. I know a lot of people have, obviously. A lot of people attend these and have this very similar experiences. And sometimes it just feels like, you know, you feel like you're the only one and something's wrong with me. And it's
Yeah,
the
exactly.
neuroses.
And the thing is, I mean, me would always be hoping that this would come to some sort of conclusion,
Right.
or some sort of stop, or this apparent liberation will be the end, the end of these sorts of neuroses or whatever. But really, this apparent liberation is the so-called end of, yeah, the one that feels it's having these neuroses or whatever.
Mm.
So these so-called thoughts and stresses or may just continue to play themselves out, or some may just totally collapse, others may continue for a while. But yeah, of course, there's just already no one at that center who feels this to be real.
I do have another question that's kind of been stuck in my head. And it's about, you know, the state of the world, obviously, and the violence and hatred and bloodshed and things like that. I've heard it said by many speakers that the me has never had any power or any influence over anything, not even over a single thought.
Yeah,
Is
oh,
that
of course, because there isn't one.
so? It seems if the people of the world had no sense of me anymore, how would there be an appearance of so much horrifying activity but committed by people on people? You know, it seems like it's the me that's doing that. The sense of me is what's causing such horrific acts.
Yeah, I mean, well, of course, not really, because of course there just is no one who has a sense of me, because there is no me. But I see what you're saying, and as a story, one could say that sort of so-called behaviors or whatever seem to be claimed to come or emerge from me or whatever. There seems to be a body that seems to be acting very defensively or acting very aggressively out of fear or whatever. But yeah, one can't, of course, say, oh, that's because they think they are someone. Because there just is no one. So this is just impossible to say. But like I say, as a story, one could just say, that body seems to be claiming that there's me, but there's just no, this whole cause and effect thing just totally collapses, because like I say, one can't then link the two together and say, and then that's why that body is behaving that way, because no, there's just quite simply a body that seems to be saying, I'm me, I'm really scared that I'm whatever, and I'm gonna act like this or whatever. But yeah, no, there's no one in that. So of course, me would love it to be an explanation for the crap that happens or the violence, the atrocities. Oh, that's because there's me and da, da, da. But yeah, no, I mean, not really. Of course not. There's just totally just wholeness playing itself out.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying. I understand, and it's just my mind trying to work everything out. I see that, but thanks so much for your response, Izzy. Appreciate it.
Oh, nice to speak with you, Ben.
Yeah, you too.
It's so confusing when you talk about the me this does this, the me thinks that, and then saying there's no me and there never was a me. It's like the contradiction is very like, what the heck?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I guess on these meetings or whatever, I mean, the person is always seems to be asking questions, really. The person is the question. And so really the person always seems to be asking these questions relating to me, because of course that's what the person cares about, so to speak. What's going to happen to me? Where do I fit into all this? How, what, da, da, da. Really, I mean, all these questions is, the question is the person. So of course, then there seems to be a lot of reference to me, this loop, me does this, me does that. But yeah, exactly like you say, there just is no one. So it's all just chatter about, of course, just something that's not there. So yeah.
It really seems like there's somebody here, you know. Earlier you said something like that the person is expectation, not that someone has expectation, but it is. And I've noticed here, like, there's this constant, like, thinking or whatever, imagining of how things could be better, right? It's like, oh, this is what's happening, but if I had such and such, it'd be better. Or if, oh, this was happening, it'd be better. Or if I was in this other place, it would be better, right? It's like this constant thing. So that activity, you could say, is the self rather than I'm doing that. That is the I. Does that make sense?
Well, I mean, of course, in this way that there is, of course, just no separate individual. And of course, there is no, I mean, this was, for me, this was what was very confronting in the end, so to speak, was actually that this whole thing with me and this, whatever, this expectation, this anticipation, this so-called energy or whatever, that actually I always projected that onto me or whatever, or like you say, or the self or the I or ego or whatever. but of course, actually, when it was heard that actually this was me, not some sort of concept of me or story of an ego or an ego death, that actually, no, this whole sense to be myself was this sense of expectation, and that there was nothing else other than what I felt to be myself. So that when this whole sense to be myself, it was clear that this was about my death, then that was very confronting, because this wasn't about some abstract me's death or some kind of ego death, or like the bad parts were going to die. No, this was the whole sense of me was just going to die, and did just totally collapse, and there was nothing left. So yeah, I see what you're saying in this sense. And yeah, so this whole sense to be me is this sense of expectation energetically.
Yeah, back to the death of me, the me, like me, right? Not some idea, as you say, like me, but it's I'm too young to die. You know, I'm not ready.
Well,
I'm
how do you
not
think
ready.
I felt?
I'm not ready. You know, my life has not been the way I wanted it to be, and I have to fix that somehow, right? I have to like somehow find the life I want or whatever. It's find fulfillment, right?
Well, yeah,
Before I
exactly.
die.
And when this was really heard for me too, this was very confronting. I mean, a lot of sadness was sort of there with what about all the stuff I haven't done yet? Yeah, exactly. And all the, you know, what about my family and my friends? I mean, all very dramatic, you know, like I'm never going to see them again, and all this sort of thing. And yeah, of course, in that sense, one could say the person is right, because there will not there. I mean, in this way, there just is no one already, but nothing survives this death. So of course you will never see anyone again, but actually, of course, the funny thing is there just is no one to see anyway. And yeah, I mean, this for the person, this is not it energetically. This apparent Zoom meeting, Izzy and Jason having a chat, is just not enough. It's not wholeness for the person. It can't be. What, this? What, you mean this? Oh, yeah, I mean,
Well,
that's what's being suggested, is that this is wholeness.
intellectually, I can get that, because of course it has to be, like everything has to be wholeness, but that doesn't mean I'd like it, you know, or it's like it can be very painful and upsetting, but it's still wholeness. Like I understand that, sure, but it's like, well, that doesn't make it less painful or less uncomfortable.
And it never does. And really what the person would be wanting is that this so-called death will reach a place where the pain will become less painful or whatever. But actually, in a funny way, it's the complete opposite. There's just full-on pain, boundless grief, but also happiness and joy. So it's just full-on intensity. I mean, what I was certainly hoping, one could say, and what the sense of I is always hoping, is, yeah, that things will be tamed or calm or whatever. But in a funny way, it's the total, yeah, it's totally opposite, one could say, to what the person is hoping for or expecting. It's just boundless aliveness.
Okay, thanks. I'll check in with you later, and we'll see what happens. Let you know how it goes. Thanks.
Thanks, Jason. Okay, in the chat. So, after death, maybe you can be what you want to be before, since it always was like this. After death, maybe you can be what you want to be before, since it always was like this. It is this now, not something weird or strange that you have never seen before. Not sure I 100% understand the start of the question, but I think I see what you mean, in this sense that, yeah, one could say, especially when there were glimpses, one could say, and I survived them, there seemed to be a familiarity with this energetically. There seem to be, and this of course seems to be why this can be described as home, one could say, home for no one, because there seems to be a sense energetically of familiarity, one could say. But with these so-called glimpses, someone always seems to survive them. And then this familiarity can seem very comforting, one could say. When actually, really, when this seemed energetically less of a glimpse and more just that I was actually going to die, this wasn't, of course, comforting. This was confronting, one could say. But yeah, I see what you're saying, and in a strange way, one could say that, yeah, of course, there is this familiarity in this sense, that there's just always been no one. There never has been anyone. So there's nothing, nothing weird or strange that has never been seen before. Nothing is added. Exactly. There is nothing added. It's impossible. And also there is nothing taken away. That's also impossible. One could just say that this is the apparent loss of something that never happened. So, I mean, how much of a loss is it, really? But, well, it's actually no loss. But for the person, this is the ultimate loss. And this isn't even a loss of anything. It's a loss of me. It's the loss of what feels itself to even be losing something. So there's not even poverty and then I'm left in the poverty. Even this sense of the one that feels itself to be in or out is just gone. So yeah, this is home and always has been home, so to speak, and always for no one, which was the surprise in many ways. It's always been this. And yeah, like I say, in this total ordinariness, nothing strange or new or spiritual, deeper, magical, mystical. It's just always been this. Just sitting on Zoom. Having a chinwag. That's just it. Always this. It is only the loss of the apparent loser. Yeah, exactly. And this never actually happens. I mean, one could say what the person, this so-called loop, the person is always hoping to gain something and fearing it loses something. So it's constantly hoping to get something and it's fearing that it will, and it's fearing it will lose something or not get what it wants. Hoping it get what it wants, fearing it won't get what it wants, whatever. Hi, Andrew.
Hi Izzy. Are you living in a broom cupboard? You've got a vacuum cleaner behind you.
I
Have you
am.
moved house?
Yeah, it's
You're living in a...
very Harry Potter-esque.
I was just going to say that. Is it a different house or something?
Yeah.
What was I going to say? Oh, God. It's 5:45. It's getting let me think. Oh yeah, about death. You were saying many times everything's death, and you've said it to me many times in Messenger, I kind of get it. Everything's death. And I don't get it, obviously, in another way, because everything feels very alive. So could you talk about that a bit? Is if any words come to everything you see is death?
Well, yeah, I mean, of course, I guess the first thing to say is that no one will ever get that. So
Yeah.
that this is death is totally inconceivable. And that is impossible to understand and will never be understood, so to speak, and is not trying to understand itself. But yeah, I mean, like you say, aliveness. So what appears to be happening is death, and it's simultaneously aliveness, one could say, simultaneously life and death. So there's just no difference. There's just indistinguishable. And there's just, I mean, there's neither and there's both. So, which is just this. So, yeah, I mean, as far as an explanation, of course, there just isn't one. So, and of course, this is what the person would always be trying to do, would be to understand how this is death, or how this is life, or how it is simultaneously both, or neither, or whatever. But yeah, as I say, that is totally incomprehensible. I mean, just can't even go there, just inconceivable.
Is it death in the sense of it being completely without substance, transparent, empty, in the sense that although it appears to be happening, it never did happen. It's literally only a flimsy, even though it feels very real, 100% real, it's a very flimsy appearance. Or is that saying too much in a sense?
Well, I mean, one could just say that I mean, yeah, I kind of had this sort of thing too, you could say, with there were perhaps glimpses of the emptiness, one could say. And then it was kind of very clear that there was sort of nothing in what appeared to be happening. So there was nothing to get, nothing to gain. The sort of everything was empty. There was nothing behind it, no sort of depth or meaning. Like, this kind of became very clear, but it still became clear to me. But really, this is what appears to be happening is empty of fullness. So it's simultaneously neither and both. So and of course, this so-called dead aliveness, if you want to call it that, will just never be seen. It's totally impossible. So I mean, it's the person may sense the emptiness or the fullness in these so-called glimpses, but of course, whenever there seems to be me, it's never both. It just has to be one or the other for me, or whatever. It just can't, yeah, whatever. So yeah, there's no explanation. There's just what appears to be happening is empty fullness. And it's not empty of anything or full of anything. It's just totally itself.
It's not empty of anything and it's not full of anything. So any word to describe life is off, because nothing's on. And there's no word that's on. So I mean, off's the wrong word as well, but there is no utterance in the English. I only know English language. Obviously, I know other languages, but in the English language, you can't even say it is, because it also is not. So
Exactly.
we're stuck with not being able to talk about it.
Oh, totally. Really. It's totally indescribable. It's actually absolutely impossible. So, I mean, totally energetic. So the words are just linguistic, semantic kind of arguments, if you like. I mean, is it empty fullness? Is it aliveness? Is it dead? I mean, it's all just an intellectual debate or whatever. But what is being suggested is totally energetic, which just can't be described. And there is no thing which is being described. So there's no actual life which is sort of being described or whatever, that it is like this. I mean, no, the words of apparent description are just what appear to be happening, but they're not describing anything, like anything salient or whatever. Yeah, and like you say, nor is there anything that is not. So there's what appears to be happening is just what appears to be happening. It's not an actual life that is happening, nor is it not happening. It's just neither.
In the speechlessness that sort of engenders, it's like, if there's a sense of self, the solidity of everything is undoubted, the realness. I mean, you can intellectually say it's, you know, all the non-dual, radical non-dual speakers said the same thing about it not being real for quite some time, and you're saying it very repeatedly, and I find that very beautiful that it's so consistent, but it's incomprehensible.
Oh, totally. And actually,
To
of
you
course,
too, to that body too.
well, of course, yeah, there's no one who seems to be trying to comprehend it anymore. This whole thing of this sense to be me is just totally collapsed. So there's just a body just naturally doing what it does. I mean, naturally a body isn't just trying to conceive of what is appearing to happen. It's just totally
That's really amazing to hear, because of course 8 billion of us, and that's presumptuous, but it probably isn't far off, are walking around trying to understand what we're walking around in and who it is that's walking around and what time and space are. And you know, we've probably heard a lot of the non-dual speakers for a long time, a lot of us, and we've heard the same answers, but we're still walking around, and there is a we in there for probably 8 billion people going, what, who am I, where am I, what is this? And we might hear about time and space not being real, and the history of the earth being a big lie, and you know, everything's new. I remember Steffi, my friend who I share a property with, she spoke to Tony once about the wall appearing in the retreat centre in Wales. It was very old with ivy on it, so it was probably hundreds of years old. And she said, well, how come that's new? And I wasn't there. I don't know what Tony's answer was, but I think Steph said something like, everything's always new. But, you know, if you look at Stonehenge or the pyramids or Sumerian ruins 400,000 years ago, it seems like it's 400,000 years ago ruins in Sumeria, or 40,000-year-old pyramids, whatever date you want to put on them. That sort of can't be denied as well, because I've seen my body get older. I'm 65 and I don't look 5, so there must be a parent time.
Yeah, one could just say as a story, exactly. So there's just age, or the body ages or whatever, or there's apparent history with plants growing, you know, walls being put up, houses collapsing, whatever. There's like Stonehenge, like you say. So there's apparent history, but of course this sense that time is actually real is this sense of me, or this sense of being in this timeline on this path or whatever. And so of course there's just this whole thing just seems to totally collapse, of course, and actually already isn't there. So there's no sense of, oh, I've been here before or whatever, or oh, that's so. Yeah, in that sense one could say everything is new, because there's just no sense of, oh, that was when I was here last week. No, there's just no sense of this it's just not there. So there's just what appears to be happening, going shopping or whatever. And of course one could say there's apparent memory of, oh yeah, no, I went to the supermarket last week or whatever, but there's just this lived sense that that was actually me. It's just, yeah, just totally not there.
And of course that supermarket and the trolleys and the cars and the people going in the supermarket, it's completely new, because 5 seconds before the trolleys were in a different place and the people, and you've all breathed a few more breaths, and so it's always new in that sense. But say when Izzy looks in the mirror, when the mirror's being looked in by that body, I mean, maybe you can't speak to that, but what is reflected back is Can you say anything about that, for example, or is that hard
Oh,
to talk about?
I mean, totally normal in this sense.
Right.
So there just might be, I mean, well, just maybe like, yeah, looking in the mirror and just, I don't know, looking at my hair or whatever, just like, oh, that looks good, or usually that doesn't look good and it needs to wash.
Well, when I look in the mirror, it doesn't look good at all because it's all gone. But at least you got some. Yeah. That okay. I
But
kind
yeah,
of
I
know
mean, I know
before I
what
say
you're saying,
anything
and
to you, Izzy. I kind of know that you're going to sort of not give anything. So it's a funny thing to ask anything in a way.
well, no, but the funny thing is with the sort of this mirror thing, I mean, that whole, so I guess what the person would be expecting, one could say, of course, the person would be looking or whatever, and there seems to be this lived sense that that is me.
Yeah.
But of course, then this whole thing just totally collapses and is not replaced by anything. So of course is not then replaced by another sense, or a sense of, oh, that's a bit freaky, I'm looking in the mirror but that's not me, or whatever, or oh, no one's looking in the mirror. I mean, no, this whole, energetically, that whole thing just totally dies, and there's no extra narrative of, oh, look, now there's no one or whatever. I mean, no, there's just that whole narrative just doesn't go on. There's just the body just looks in the mirror and there's no story attached to that.
So is there no narrative really about anything in a way, Izzy, for you? Like, is it narrative free? Is it narrative free existence, as it were?
Well, there's just no existence. So there's just there's just no one at the center, of course. So there's just
Yeah,
neither.
okay.
So there's just thoughts just seem to be happening, but this one that feels itself to be at the center, registering the thoughts or whatever, is just, there's just already not there.
So you don't hear your own thinking?
Oh, of course not. No, there is no one.
Well, you say, of course, like it's obvious, but of course, to all of us, we do hear our own thinking. We probably don't want to, because thinking can be very, obsessive and very looping, of course, and so oftentimes very uncomfortable. So to not witness anything must be amazing. I mean, I can't imagine.
Oh yeah,
Must be so totally liberating. That's the obvious word, but sorry, you were going to say. Sorry.
Well, yeah, totally inconceivable. And the funny thing is, in many ways, is that there's already no one listening. So,
Yeah.
so there's no transition, of course, from, oh, there once was me and then there's no me. I mean, no, this line just isn't there. So there's just never been anyone listening. There's just thinking, just like there is there, so to speak. Just a body thinking.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.
Oh, got one in the chat. Yeah, we have hit the hour, but I'm sure we can squeeze this in. Oh, were you always beautiful like this, or the collapse of the me adds beauty to the body? Oh, it was always like this. No. Yeah, I mean, well, one could just say, of course, the sense to be the person is this sense of neuroses and contraction and fear and all these sorts of things the so-called person feels to be very real. And this sense can seem very serious, of course. So there, I mean, with this so-called death, there can just seem to be this lightness. Which one could just say, I mean, if we're going to be romantic, one could just say is the true beauty. I mean, yeah, what's being suggested is unconditional love. And so, of course, this has no look or feeling or whatever. This is just totally energetic. It's not owned by anyone. And this can seem to be sensed, one could say, on these meetings. So this has nothing to do with Izzy or this body or whatever. It's nothing to do with anything. It's just everything. But I'll take the compliment, so thank you. It's a nice way to end my evening. Okay, so yeah, that's probably a good place to wrap it up. Yeah, this is wholeness, of course. So what appears to be happening is wholeness. And it's nothing other than this apparent Zoom meeting. Sitting on a chair, breathing, listening to Izzy, thinking, neuroses, fear, whatever. It's just everything already. And it's just naturally whole and complete. It's not on a path or process of becoming more or less. It's just impossible. It's already this. For no one. Yeah, so okay, the next meeting will be on this Saturday at 11 AM British summertime. Obviously, I think I've mentioned a few times Brighton, so that's coming up at the end of this month. There's still a few spaces for that. And then next month in August, I'm doing another Zoom intensive, which is the same as this, of course, but just a little bit longer. So there's 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon. And yeah, it's really nice sort of group. And those will be just sort of live on Zoom, if you like, so they won't be recorded or put on YouTube. So it will be an exclusive access kind of thing. Yeah, if you're in America, obviously last time a few people came from America just to the afternoon sessions, and obviously it will be like half the price, and that's fine. So yeah, you can email me if that's interesting. So yeah, thank you everyone. Thanks for those saying in the chat, and yeah, thanks for coming, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, Izzy.
Thanks everyone.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Izzy. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, Izzy.
Thanks, guys. Take care.